here's something I didn't even mention yet, which might fascinate people the most, is you were Stephen A. Smith's producer.
Yes, I was. And you know what? I have to tell you something. He is one of the best people I've ever worked with.
Stephen A. Smith, one of the best people you've ever worked with.
Ever. Yeah. And I know he's a polarizing guy to a lot of people, but to me, he absolutely gave me credit for all the stuff that, I came up with. And he had left ESPN. He had gotten fired from ESPN, I believe, or they didn't renew his contract. And then Fox Sports Radio had called me. I was in Washington because President Obama had suggested me to kind of run this radio network because he listened to Steve Dahl all the time in Chicago.
This is crazy, Dan.
And
so Obama handpicked you for this?
He mentioned my name to them. Uh-huh. And this huge radio company, when they called me, said, we have all the right wingers. We have Hannity, we have Beck, we have nobody on the left. I'm like, well, I'm not on the left. I'm more center. And they said, yeah, but you have a good sense of broadcasting. And I said, well, I was on a tour with the guys from Spinal Tap, mm-hmm. and they done a small tour. I go, when I get back from the tour, let's talk about it. And so he had suggested me, and then a couple other people had suggested me. They all listened to Harry Shearer's Le Show, which is a radio show he's been doing for 40-something years. It was on here in Chicago, and it was on a lot of the National Public radio stations. And Obama listened, Rahm Emanuel listened, David Axelrod listened. They all listened. And so my name, Harry will mention me every once in a while, and Obama remembered that. And so then I went to Washington. And I got sick to my stomach like every day having to get up because it was just there isn't enough water in Lake Michigan to shower enough to get that stench off of you, the people in Washington.
Really?
And what I saw. Yeah. They're all corrupt, and they're all, some are better than others, but you just never get that stink off you. And I didn't want to be there. I just did not want to be there.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're pretty good at sniffing out the bullshit?
Yes. Yeah, I'm very good at it.
How long did it take you to like really get into that? Because I was, in the position like I'm in now too, like you see it going on, and I'm like, man, it is kind of, you do have your intuition, but.
Well, I try to like think the best of everybody, especially,
exactly.
But there are no more Lincolns or Jeffersons there. I got news for you. Mm-hmm. So I tried to think the best, and all they cared about were celebrity. The exact same words I heard from Mike Huckabee, who had been a guest a couple of times. I heard from Chuck Todd. I mean, all I care about is being famous.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, not running the country or not being the watchdog to run the country.
So what was that program called again?
It was Premier just were setting up different people. The one they had moved to Washington, her name was Randy Rhodes, and she had worked at Air America, but we wanted to set up other programming too. But I wanted out of there as quickly as possible, and so I did. And but they promoted me to New York, and that's where I worked with Stephen A.
Okay, so then so you moved to Washington initially because of the Obama connection,
right? To
do this left-wing centrist political show,
right?
And then you're like, I want out. And then New York
Premier, which had owned they were setting up it was more Premier Radio because they were worried that everyone would come after them because they had all the right wingers.
Okay.
And so,
so they were trying to diverse it a little bit.
Yeah. So they wanted me to oversee it. And I got out of there and I said, listen, I'm leaving at the end of the year. And they said, no, don't. And we've got this other show. And so I said, okay. And I said, well, who is it? And they wouldn't tell me who it was with. And then until we got closer, and it was Stephen A. And we met in Washington. And it was the two of us in New York in a studio, and then 9 or 10 people in Los Angeles. And we had a great time. And he was wonderful to me all the time. And I know some people say that he's not like that all the time, but he was never like that around me.
That's crazy. I've heard like, because he's got the rambunctious personality, but I've heard off he just
No,
just
we
real
had
chill.
a great time, and it's just the two of us. And day 2, a major thing happened where Stephen A. was right in what we needed to do, and we just bonded from that day on. And he was great to me. He was absolutely great to me.